Welcome to Startup with Ferris livestream. Thank you for tuning in. What's new in the world of entrepreneurship? Folks, we're talking about service delivery. You've sold a project and now you have to deliver it. Now, did you know that 70% of projects fail to meet their original goals? This is according to McKinsey and other sources. So this alarming figure underscores the importance of mastering project management in any type of service or consulting that you do. So it's not enough to just close a deal and have a project timeline. It's really about delivering a solution, making sure the expectations between you and the client are aligned, that the risks are mitigated, and then you're fostering a collaborative and a collaborative relationship, and all of that will help you be successful in what you do, and will make sure that you have happy clients, delighted clients who will come back to you for more business and refer you to other businesses. Now, how do we ensure that your services project, your consulting project, they don't become another statistic? The answer lies in understanding the unique project management needs of every consulting initiative, every service initiative that you have. But before we go into the details of the various stages of project management, the do's and don'ts, we talk about some of the typical gotchas. Before we go into any of this stuff, I want to pause and making sure that if you have any questions, please, whatever platform you're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, leave us a comment there, or you can email me at startupwithferris.com, or you can direct message me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you, whether you are watching live, whether you're listening live or tuning in later. I'd love to hear from you about some of the challenges you're facing. I also want to hear about the small and big wins you're having, and any sort of struggle or anything you'd like to hear from us, because we have these live streams once a week on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we cover a topic related to entrepreneurship and business, and then we answer the questions from the community. So with that, and before I get started, I also want to remind you that we have a special promotion for our black belt startup program. We have a Back to Startup School campaign running, and would love to share with you the promotion at the end of this live stream. Let's jump right in. So you're a service provider, you're a consultant, and you sold something, whatever that is. It could be an IT audit, it could be a communication and leadership coaching program, it could be a strategy development, it could be you're a financial advisor. You've sold that service that you offer. So this engagement is where you, the expert, the consultant, you provide advice, you provide guidance. You're basically providing solutions to an organization, to your clients who are facing a specific challenge, or maybe they're just looking for advice on how to achieve a certain goal. And these types of projects, even in the same service line, even in the same company, you have different projects, different sizes, different scopes. So there's no one size fits all approach, because things can vary significantly in terms of the scope of the project, in terms of the duration of the project, and also the complexity of the service that you offer, and also the complexity of the needs of the clients and their industry. So before we go into the 5 stages of a project, I want to give you some examples. So if this is helpful, hopefully, if you are starting a business now, or you're thinking of starting a business, you see that there are common patterns in business. There are things that you need to know, regardless of the service or the consulting that you're offering. So the examples I will share here hopefully will give you an idea. So you could be, again, a strategist, and you could be offering strategy development services. So you help companies define long-term visions and their strategic goals, right, on a specific project or for the entire business. You could be a market researcher. That's the service you offer. So you conduct in-depth research to understand the various trends that are happening around us, and maybe customer preferences. Or maybe you're a financial advisor, so you provide guidance on financial matters such as investment, investment decisions, risk management, different portfolios, retirement planning, what have you. You could also be a communication coach. You assist leaders, managers, individuals to develop effective communication strategies and help people maybe present better or communicate better, be more articulate, be more maybe energetic, whatever the case might be. You can also be offering leadership development. So you can facilitate workshops and coaching programs to cultivate strong leadership management skills and help build high performing teams. These are examples on different types of services, different types of consulting projects, and then the scope could be different, and it could be defined mainly by the objectives of the client and the nature of the problem or the opportunity and the resources that you have. So typically, as consultants, as service providers, we are solving a problem, a specific problem, a critical issue that our clients face, and this issue is hindering their performance. Potentially, you could come in to improve an existing process. You could be an HR consultant, and you come in and look at the way that a customer is evaluating their employees. There's no system in place to have proper evaluation, or maybe um, they're just struggling with onboarding new hires, or maybe they're struggling in vetting all these resumes that they're getting. So you can come in and improve an existing process. You can also be the type of consultant or a service provider where you are helping a client identify and seize opportunities. So for example, maybe one of your clients is in a specific geography and they want to start a business targeting a new market, a new geography, or maybe they're launching a new service, a new product, and you can help them in this go-to-market strategy. So a lot of different scopes, of course. The idea here is that no matter what the project is, no matter what the service is, no matter what the scope of the project is, these five key stages of any project in consulting and services will be there and will be needed. The understanding those stages and the way a project will progress is really important, so you can plan accordingly. You plan for every stage, all the way from that initiation stage to the completion. But before we get into these five key stages, let's see what questions we have. And we have a comment from Ashish. Ashish, thank you so much for your comment. It says here, I would like to hear your thoughts about delivery management, managing the quality deliverables in the consulting services, comparing traditional projects versus Gen I based projects. Are there nuance? Are there nuance differences in the two? So the question here, thank you for the comment, Ashish. I appreciate it. I'd like to hear your thoughts about delivery management. I mean, when we say Gen I based projects, like, I don't know, maybe you could be more specific, but I mean, depending on what you do, are you referring to you as a consultant leveraging AI and Gen I in your delivery? Let's say you do copywriting or you do video editing. Are you leveraging AI in your process to make sure that your deliverables are stronger, are better, are higher quality? Or are you referring where to the clients and they're looking for some AI projects? I think I don't know if from purely from a project management perspective, it really doesn't matter what the technology is or the service is, what the um, the whether I'll give you a very basic example. If someone has a tree trimming services, or someone has a very high tech project, in terms of scoping the project, in terms of planning the resources, in terms of dependencies on the customer, like all of those, I think, are similar. So I don't see an impact of, unless I'm missing the question, I don't see an impact or a difference between a traditional project, as you called it, versus a Gen I based project. But of course, if you are leveraging AI, for example, I was actually working on a project for one of our customers, and we have our templates and we have our checklist, and we've done this for a long time. So I did go to Chat GPT and I gave it this crazy long prompt, and I said, here's the situation, here's what I do, here's what I'm looking for, here's what my customer is looking for, here are the resources, here are the circumstances, give me a detailed checklist. And I think there was probably a 90% overlap between what we had and then what Chat GPT had. And we missed a couple of things that maybe not as relevant for our service, but it was good to see. So in that sense, I would definitely encourage business owners, consultants, service providers to leverage AI in their execution, because you could potentially um, automate some of these processes that you use. Again, copywriting is one example. Video editing is another example. If you're an HR consultant and you're helping other businesses in vetting the candidates, potentially you could use some of the AI tools out there as an employer or as a consultant for an employer, where you can, if you have, I don't know, 100 resumes, you can potentially run them through one of those tools out there where they can do a match or a score on how these resumes are performing against the job description. So I think incorporating AI in your delivery is important, as AI is everywhere these days. And then also, don't use AI blindly. So I hope I answered your question. If not, please add more. Provide more details, and I'd be more happy to look into it further. But thank you for your comment. Now, I think we have another question here. Let's see. Should you always have an agreement and a detailed scope defined? Short answer is yes and yes. So anytime money exchanges hands, there should be an agreement. Now, the agreement could be formal, informal. There are a lot of different scenarios. But if you are a starting a consultant who's just starting, if you're new to the business, you've been struggling with sales and with delivery, I think having an agreement is essential. The agreement doesn't have to be 25 pages long, but having, here's what I heard from you, Mr. Client. Here's what I'm delivering. Here are the key milestones. Here's the general timeline. Here are the payment terms when I'll be getting paid. Here are when you pay me net 10, net 15, net 30, do on invoicing. All of those aspects of should be in an agreement. This way, there'll be less chances, less potential for problems. We'll talk a little bit about scope in a little bit, but having an agreement is essential. And then the amount of details is going to vary in the sales process. You're not going to have time, or you won't have all the details to provide a detailed project plan, but some key milestones. You sell someone an IT, let's say I'm an IT consultant, and I'll come in and do an audit on your security and on cybersecurity, and making sure your systems won't be hacked. So are you going to deliver the service in a week, in a month, in 6 weeks? And is it going to happen by you coming on site, by you having access to my systems virtually? Like all these aspects have to be defined, understood by both by the client and you, so that you have some expectations to work towards, right? Otherwise, the client might be thinking that you'll finish this audit in 2 weeks, and you might be thinking it needs 6 weeks, right? So scope and agreements are important. Always, always, always. Again, the level of formality and the level of detail is going to vary. A lot of some consultants have a lot of details about what they offer on their websites, and in a way, that's is the agreement. They say we have package 1, package 2, package 3, and then on their website they list all, like, what's included, what's not included. So basically, you can do that without having to do like unique proposals every time. Again, depending on your service. So good stuff. Good question. Thank you. Ashish, thank you. Ashish says, thank you for your views. I appreciate it for sure. Happy. Thank you again for being with us on this live stream. Cool. So the 5 key stages of project management in services and consulting. Think of the life cycle as a series of very distinct phases with maybe a little bit of overlap. And each phase has its own objectives and deliverables. Now, again, depending on the service you offer, depending on the complexity of the service, depending on the scope of the project, if you're selling a $1,000 service, it's different than if you're selling a $50,000 service. But the idea is that these 5 stages have to be in there. Again, the scope or the level of details or the duration of these phases might vary. You might have to elaborate more, you might have to elaborate less, but the general flow is applicable to many, if not all, project and services. So what do we have for us? I think we have a slide on those key stages. So the first one is initiation. You have to initiate the project. Second is planning, and then you have to implement. You have to um, execute, and then monitoring, and then delivery and closure. So project initiation. Think about it as you've sold the business, you've sold the project. Now you have to get started and get the client onboarded. So you have a kickoff meeting, and we have articles actually on kickoff meetings and on onboarding. I think we're dropping those in next week or so. So check out our website at startupwithferris.com. Ferris spelled Feras, and you'll see detailed articles on all of these things around scoping, around project management, on also on onboarding clients. But the idea is, once you sold the service, you're excited, the client is excited, make sure you have a kickoff meeting. And in that kickoff meeting, this is the opportunity to now drill down into the scope, into the deliverables. A lot of times we don't capture all the information we need during the sales process. So in the kickoff meeting, you might have a survey that you send before the kickoff meeting, or maybe you collect that information when you meet the client and start defining the details of the scope of the project, any boundaries, what's included, what's not included. Sometimes the person who bought the service from you is not the same person who will be in charge of receiving that service. So you might have sold the service to a VP, and then maybe his or her director will be the person implementing the service. So you want to, in that kickoff meeting, in that project initiation phase, you are reestablishing, reminding everybody of the scope, of the deliverables, of the time frame. And again, typically this is done in a kickoff meeting. You can have stuff maybe pre-packaged. You send them the information ahead of meeting them, but it's important to start the project on the right foot and be very communicative and share a lot of information with the client. And typically there are more than one stakeholder, so make sure you are sharing, kicking off the project and bringing everyone up to speed on the client side on what the service is, what's included, what's not, and make sure there's no ambiguity. And in that process, of course, the deliverables, that's what the client bought. So there might be 2-3 deliverables part of your service. It might be just one deliverable at the very end. So remind everybody of that, what that deliverable is, or what the deliverables are, and that timeline. So that's the initiation. So basically, in the sales process, we were at the, I don't know, 10,000 feet. We were very high. Not a whole lot of details. Now we are coming down closer to earth. So in that initiation phase, we are maybe down to we are 1,000 feet high, and then now we want to start actually planning, that in-depth planning. And one word of advice on planning, as Dwight Eisenhower famously has said, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So even if some of the items I'll be covering today, maybe they're not as applicable to your business, that process of planning is what I want you to be really good at. If you're a business owner and you have someone else managing the projects for you, then they should be the ones. If you're let's say you're on the sales and the marketing side of the business, then the person who's in charge of delivering your service, they need to know these different phases, and they need to be really good at planning these projects. Remember, 70% of projects do not meet their intended goals. So the more time we spend being proactive and plan for these projects, the better the outcome is likely to be. So this meticulous, attention to detail and the comprehensive approach to everything, resources, deliverables, timelines, needs, wants, of the clients, all that's important. So if you've done some traditional project management, you hear this word, work breakdown structure, WBS. I attended a project management course many, many years ago. And the idea of this, I don't want to throw in some buzzwords, but this work breakdown structure basically is you're breaking down the big deliverable and the let's say a 2-month project into specific things you'll do maybe every day or every week. So you're breaking down think of it as a hierarchical decomposition of the project scope into smaller, manageable tasks, right? Now, again, you might have done 10 of these projects and you have a template for this, and hopefully you're using a tool. We'll share with you some recommended tools at the end of this live stream. But basically you have a view of not just the, I want to do an audit, I want to deliver this coaching workshop, I want to come in and help a business improve their copy, the content that they produce, whatever the case might be. Break down these tasks. I got to do some research. I got to meet the client. I have to collect information from the client. I have to put it all together as a draft and share it with the client. So all of that needs to be broken down, especially if you have a lot of projects going on at the same time. So you'll lose track of what has to happen when, without this planning, this meticulous planning, attention to detail. It's going to be really difficult for you to grow the business. So make sure you have this work breakdown structure, the detail. Don't worry about the buzzword, but break down the major deliverables into smaller manageable tasks. And then all these tasks combined can be put together in a project timeline where you show the sequence of activities and the dependencies. What is it that you need from the client before you can deliver, right? And then also, if you're now beyond just being a solopreneur and you have a team on your in your company, then you want to make sure you're doing proper resource allocation. So who's going to have John and Jane and Jack? So who is going to be working on which task, which project, which client? And then are there tools, equipment, software, and maybe some budget that you have to allocate to these different tasks and projects? So making sure that resource allocation piece of planning is also included in this phase. Of course, depending on the complexity of the service, of the project that you have, and the people you depend on, you rely on to deliver, there might be some risks out there. So risk management is something to think about. Like if I have a person who is helping me with delivering the service to my client, and they're sick or they're out or who knows what happened to them, do I have a plan B? If I'm expecting something from my client by Wednesday and they deliver the next Monday, that's going to impact the timeline. But maybe there's a hard deadline we all have to meet. So how do I make up for the days lost? So risk management is something that I think you learn over time. You learn from experience the types of issues that surface. So just be aware that most of the time, most likely, projects will not run smoothly. Something or another will come up. So it's just life. Things happen, right? The other thing to plan for is, and again, we do have an article on this very topic that we will share on our website. So make sure you check out our website, startupwithfairs.com. You subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Daily Advisor. You can get access to all of this information. So in terms of the next thing is communication. So how are you planning to communicate with the client? What systems are you going to be used? Who's involved in this communication? So maybe you use email, great. Maybe you use Slack or maybe some other collaboration tool. So whatever that is, in your kickoff meeting, in your initial planning phases of the project, make sure the client is aware of what communication channels you'll be using, and then also the frequency of communication and the formats and what do they expect from you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. A couple other things also to keep in mind as you're planning here is about other resources you might be using. Maybe you might be using a contractor or a vendor who will be essential to you delivering that service. So make sure that whatever resources you use external, they are also identified. You get their buy-in. If you want your vendor to deliver to you on Wednesday so you can deliver to the client on Thursday, make sure there's a buffer between the vendor's deliverable and your deliverable, so that you in case something happens, you have time to recover. So planning for the vendor and for the contractor relationships, that's also important. So that's on planning. I know we covered a lot, but the idea is to look at the major tasks and bring them down. Look at the timeline for the different smaller tasks and how they build up to to the entire timeline. You look at the resources you have, whether it's internal resources or external, like contractors, and then you have a communication plan, and you mitigate. Expect some things will not go according to plan, so be ready to respond to those issues as they pop up. Uh, so that is on planning. So we have a couple of comments. Nina from Straight Talk with Nina. Thank you so much for being on this live stream, Nina. I appreciate it. And thank you for also the great content that you produce on your channel. So if those of you who are listening, check out Nina at Straight Talk with Nina. I had a podcast with her, I think 2-3 months ago. It was a really lovely conversation. Thank you, Nina. All right, Ashish, you have another comment here. Maybe you can pull that to the screen as well. How do you decide how much of work breakdown in the project planning is required? A good question. It is going to depend on the scope of the service. And I would say it also depends on, are you really good at it now? You've done it for a while and you know exactly what to do. But initially, for those of us who are new to project management, to delivering on a project that they've sold, I would say internally, but for you, like, go as deep as you can in terms of the details, and then with the client, you might not want to uh, uh, bore them with all the internal stuff, but internally, if I have to rely on 3 people to deliver a service to me, so I can package it and then present it to the client, I want to have all that detailed information ready for me, because I need John, Jake, and Jane to give me that information for me to present to the client. So I would say internally, and you can use a traditional project management tool. You can use one of the tools that I'll mention at the end of the live stream here, or in the early days, what I used to do, I use Google Sheets, and you can use some nice color coding. Again, if you have a 12-month project with $100,000 budget, you should use a project management tool, and maybe hire someone to help you with project management if it's something of that scope. But if it's a smaller service, I would just sit down and just lay out all the detailed steps and tasks that are required. And then over time, those could be, again, you'd have a sort of an internal version and an external version that you share with the client. That would be my recommendation. And some of us are very detail oriented, some of us sort of big picture. So you have, I think, personality. I think if you're a business owner, if you're a consultant, be aware of, this is more of sort of the art of consulting, the art of providing services, is when in the sales process, when you are speaking with the client, with the lead at that time, and when you're gathering information, you're not just focusing on the technical aspect of it, but also like your specific client. Are they very detail oriented? Are they big picture type people? Do they need a lot of details? So you wanna have a system. You wanna have excuse me, processes and checklists for your own service, for your own business. But it's always the art of consulting is that you want to listen to the client and just customize things a little bit, just so that you make sure um, they receive it in the way that they expected, and the way that really relates to them. So that's something to keep in mind. Yep. Good. Moving on. I think we have another question here. Let's see the second question. I think we got some comments. Yeah. How much planning do you do before sales, and how much after sales? Very good question. Before sales. So in, I think, almost all cases, before anyone buys from you, they want to know when they'll receive the service. So at least when the end deliverable, whatever that is, it could be, as I said, I will write a white paper for you. I will write a case study for you. I will go and update all your blog posts because they're just terrible today. I will go and update all the images on your website. I will develop a strategy for your business. I will provide business coaching. So I will give you a strategy to reach your goals, right? Whatever the case might be, you, with your sales hat on in the sales process, you have to commit to something, a deliverable and a time frame. So there is some level of planning that has to happen before you sell, and then when after you sell, usually that's when you have more details from the customer, and that's when you drill down into the specifics of the scope. So because you won't have the time during the sales process to cross all the t's and dot all the i's, and this is where typically issues arise, because uh, I thought I was buying a circle and now you're selling a square. Well, the things were not defined as well. So I think from a scope perspective, I would be there. My recommendation to consultants and service providers is to be as detailed as possible in your documents on your website. However you sell, make sure the scope is very well defined, and then the high big picture timeline is included, and maybe some specific milestones. And this is what will save you a whole lot of time and money and headache. Make sure any dependencies on the client are clearly listed, and any dependencies on third parties are also clearly listed. So if you cannot do your service until the client provides you with some information, then make sure your deliverable is, it says there, I will deliver in 2 weeks. That's one way. Not good. A better way, I will deliver in 2 weeks after I receive all the information from you, Mr. Client. Right? Again, this is not to pass the buck, but to protect you, because you need 2 weeks to do your job, because you have another client and you're busy, and maybe you're off one day attending a conference. So you budgeted 2 weeks to do this work, but you cannot do your work until you get the information from the client. So making sure that the expectations and the dependencies are listed in this document and the agreement. That's why the first question about having an agreement with every sale, yes, you have to have it. And a lot of times when expectations are not aligned, um, or not listed, when expectations are not explicitly stated, issues arise. So someone I know this is recent, looking for a nanny for a couple of weeks. It was all verbal on text messages. Yeah, start tomorrow. Okay, then I need you for 5 days. And then something happened, and the person who needs the nanny, they canceled the day before because something came up, and they don't need the nanny anymore, and the kid is sick or something. So they texted the nanny and say, "Hey, we don't need your services. Thank you so much. See you next time." The nanny was very unhappy. Said, "Wait a second. I was counting on this money. I blocked my calendar for those 5 days for you in the next couple of weeks." So not a good situation. If this person, the service provider, the nanny, on her end or his end, I think it was a she in this case, she should have listed, like, here are my terms, a very nice email or even a text message, or point them to her Instagram or Facebook or whatever and say, here are my terms. I'm available. Any cancellation within 2 days, I want 50% of the agreement. I mean, she would have gotten some money to obviously accommodate for the time that now she's not working, right? So even in day-to-day conversations, I think we as buyers, we should be more aware of these things and ask. And even if the vendor, maybe they're new, maybe they're not very business savvy, they're amazing at what they do. So expectations, expectation misalignment happens all the time. So make sure, as a service provider, define the scope, define the expectations, define the timeline, dependencies, and you'll probably protect yourself against maybe 80-90% of the issues that typically happen. There will always be the the unknown unknowns. Things will come up that you haven't thought of, but those we have to react to as they come up. Good stuff. Good questions. The third stage in our life cycle here is, so we talked about that initiation phase, the planning phase. Now it's time to implement. It's time to execute, and this is when where the rubber meets the road. So basically, you are now delivering, implementing the tasks. So all those tasks that you developed under the work breakdown structure, now you have to implement. And this is where, what's important here now is the collaboration. So within your team, if you have 3-4 people helping you with the service, implementing that service, you want to make sure there's who's doing what first, right? So planning is not just with the client, but also internally, making sure your workflow, this person is doing A, they're going to hand it off to person B on this day, and then to person C, and then that's going to be the final thing that we give to the client. So collaboration, communication within the team is important. And then again, problems are likely to arise when you are executing, when you are implementing. So you just want to be cool headed about it, understand what happens, understand what the root cause is. It could be something that you missed, or maybe one of your team members missed, or it could be something on the client's end. So just understand what the issue is and see how you can address that problem and keep moving forward. So another phase or another stage, another key component of the project lifecycle is monitoring. In traditional project management courses, you might have seen monitoring and controlling. Basically, you're keeping an eye on your project as it is progressing, right? So you're tracking progress. If you're a business owner and you're especially if you're on the sales and marketing side and you sold and then you handed off this project to your team, one of your team members, or maybe to a contractor to deliver on your behalf, just because you delegated the item or the task or the project, it doesn't mean you're not accountable. The buck stops here with you as the business owner, as the person in charge. So making sure you have a mechanism to track progress on tasks. So maybe you have a quick stand-up meeting every day with your team members, or maybe you have a weekly meeting with the team and look at what's going on across all the projects and then mitigate any risks and then reassign and reallocate resources. And then, of course, you want to make sure there's a quality assurance process in what you're delivering. If you're a solopreneur and you deliver, your deliverable is a document, don't just do a draft and send it, or write it and then send it. Write whatever you're about to deliver, sleep on it, and next morning, before you check email, read that document, do a thorough, use Grammarly or use ChatGPT, whatever, to make sure grammar is solid, no typos. So check your work. That's really important part of this whole monitoring aspect of things. And then the last phase of the project, this is when we deliver and then we bring this project to closure. So whatever those deliverables are, make sure the client is happy with them. We met or exceeded the expectations of the client. Make sure in this phase, we ask for client feedback. Our goal is to make sure we deliver on our commitment. And also the client is happy. The client is delighted. Delighted clients come back for more business and they refer other business to us, right? So get their feedback and tell them, be candid with me. Candor is appreciated. I want to know how, what you liked, what you did not like, what is it that we could have done better, right? So that's, a lot of people are just too nice, maybe too kind. They don't share with us a lot on our performance. So you have to nudge maybe and be very open to it. And whatever they tell you, just take it. Don't take it too personally. Write it down and then thank them for their feedback, and then take that and improve on the next time that you have a project to deliver. And of course, you want to make sure, the terms of the contract, in terms of payment, in terms of if you're supposed to shred or delete all the files you have from your client because of privacy, do that. So whatever terms you have in the contract, make sure those are taken care of, and do it. I would say, once you get the feedback from the clients, also do an internal project evaluation. Just do a postmortem or a post project review to assess what went well. We all could use a cheerful moment, like we really did well with this presentation, with this deliverable. The VP or the CEO was super happy. You can also, like, what could have been done better as a team. Again, try not to point fingers don't point fingers at team members. I have a saying in our companies, I've always said, be hard on the issue, soft on people. So we all make mistakes. We never know. Maybe the person who messed up, maybe they did not have all the resources or all the information or all the instructions. So again, be very hard on the issue and be soft on people. This way you'll learn and you encourage your team to be open, to be transparent, to share issues with you so that you can address them and improve the business. Good. So the next is we'll talk about some best practices for managing these projects, these consulting and services projects. So I want to pause for a second. I think we have a comment from Ashish. Again, thank you for being with us and commenting. What would you recommend in case you plan well, but realize that resources can be limited at the time of execution? So I mean, you plan well. Part Planning well is to do the resource allocation as we mentioned, but things happen. Like some tasks end up taking longer. So maybe you have this resource. John is working on this for a day. That's in your plan, and then it took 2 days to do this. So that's what I was saying earlier. So there's known unknowns and then unknown unknowns. So things will come up and you have to react. So maybe you have to evaluate, and maybe there'll be an impact on another customer. Maybe one of the other customers or the other deliverables is maybe not as time sensitive, and at times you might have to go to the client and say, hey, we planned this really well, but we just underestimated this, or someone got sick, or we needed more information from you. So I wouldn't try to find excuses with clients. I would be very upfront with them. Just let them know what happened, and that, I think, that builds trust. But of course, if you keep planning and missing the plan 5 times on a specific project with the same customer, I mean, the first time they'll give you an excuse, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt once, twice, but after that, it's going to reflect. It's not going to reflect well on you. So I would say, if you're new to consulting and services, all of these will be great lessons that you've learned. It's that experience, as one um, uh, one smart person said, it's that knowledge that you needed right before when you needed it. So I think assessing what happened this time around, like maybe I should plan 2 days, not one day, for this one resource, would help us next time around. But things do come up, and you have to kind of react and be ready to, sometimes to excuse me, to kind of think on the spot, and make the necessary changes, or actions that you have to do. All right, so we have a couple of more sections here, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Again, thank you for the questions that are coming in. We appreciate it. In terms of best practices for these for managing projects, of course, effective communication. We talked about this already, not just with the customer, but also internally with your team. That's really important. So the communication channels, the frequency of communication, um, when, especially within your team, like, make sure there's a transparent and open culture, so can they raise the flag when they see potential issues. So that's really important. And to do that, I think this concept of effective communication, break it down into, okay, I'll have check-ins. I'll have, like, within my team, I have a daily, or maybe every other day I have a daily sync, right? That's what we do in our businesses. Also have a check-in with the customer, again, weekly, daily, depending on the scope of the project. I think that reporting, uh, periodic reporting, would, again, concise and very clear, and show what has been done, what's left to be done, who's going to be doing what. This takes time from you, especially if you're a solopreneur, or a small business owner, and you're just starting. This is a whole lot of overhead. Trust me, you follow the process. You got to trust the process. So if you do these things, they'll take time from you, time from being out there selling. It will save you the problems that will happen with these projects. So doing an end of week report is important, because then you keep everyone on the same page. So if you have a number of stakeholders with your customers and they don't attend the weekly meetings, do a follow-up email and include all of them. This way they're aware of the progress of the project. And then, of course, always, we talked about expectations. We talked about, being a good listener as a consultant, as a service provider, especially on longer projects. Just take the time to understand the issues that the clients are facing. There might be internal, politics, on the client side. It could be they have personal stuff, that's distracting them. So always understand, if a client is unhappy, like, why are they unhappy? Is it you? Is it something you could have done? Is it because of the pressure from their boss, or is it just they had a bad day at home? So always be listening for cues, and understand, signals to help you better manage the situation. And there's no quick fix for this. This comes with practice. This comes, as we say here, given my martial arts background, it's a deliberate practice. So you're doing these projects. You have a lot of issues with the first project. You have less issues with the second one. as you're learning and correcting your mistakes, you'll become better at it. Then you'll be moving towards that mastery, which is a journey you can have that can happen overnight. All right. Thank you so much, Ashish. Appreciate your comment, and appreciate your perspective here. Good luck on your project. So let's see. We have another question before we have a we have a couple more sections here, but we have a question. Let's pull it on screen. What if a client is not responsive to my email? So in terms of communication, not responding to your email, that will not be effective communication. So I mean, I've had a lot of incidents where clients prefer a certain way to communicate. Some just communicate in person. So I think I've told the story before, but early on, one of our customers, we were going after small businesses before we got big and sold to Fortune 500 and Fortune 50. So small restaurant here, and that was early days of email. I would email the customer, give them updates, say I need this information, and they never responded to me. And then I get a call, hey Ferris, you're late. How come? You're professional. We bought from you because you're professional. How come you're late? You haven't done. And I'm saying, oh my God, I've been all over you trying to get the information from you, and you haven't been responsive. I didn't say that, of course. I said, ended up having to go in person once a week to this restaurant. And luckily I loved their food, and they were very generous. They would feed me, and the only things I would spend like 2.5 hours to get the information I needed. But if I didn't get their menu and their pictures of their dishes and their pricing and the way they want to package their catering, I couldn't do that project of building them a portal. So I have to go there weekly. I enjoyed the conversation, very nice people, and then I had a nice, very delicious dish at the time. And also when I needed to collect, my monthly check, we had him on a monthly maintenance program. I'd go there as well. So email did not work for this client. Maybe this is a unique scenario, but whatever communication method channel your client prefers, maybe text messaging is the way to get their attention. Again, ask them that early on in your in your kickoff meeting, and in a way you can't really train them to use your systems at times. See if they can go on Slack, if you use Slack, and that's easy. But if they are not going on Slack, you can't really force them to do that. It's just not part of the way they think and they operate every day. So be flexible, especially early on, especially as you're trying to get more clients and get more happy clients. Be flexible in the way you communicate with the clients. But yeah, find a way to get a hold of them. Text, email, go in person if that's holding. If the information you need is holding you from completing the project, because the longer the project, the more the project is delayed, the farther that check will be in your you'll be the farther the money will be in your bank. So keep that in mind. So communication is one thing. The other thing in terms of best practices, stakeholder management. I alluded to this a bit earlier, but in a nutshell here, stakeholders are everyone who's involved has a stake in this project. So part of your job as a consultant, as a service provider, is to identify these stakeholders. Who is it? Just the director of marketing, the marketing manager, the social media manager, maybe the CEO, depending on the size of the company. So make sure you understand who the key stakeholders are and their interests and their concerns and their influence on what you're working. Like, why would they want you to succeed? Like, what's in it for them for you to finish this project? So you want to make sure you are addressing the interests and the concerns of all the stakeholders. And basically, it's really a good way for you as a service provider to get to know your client and know who's involved in what, and who calls the shot, and who has influence, who's very thoughtful and very creative. So you'll have different, you'll get different, I think, different information from different people, and you'll understand the interests and the desires and the pain points from the different stakeholders, again, depending on the service that you're offering. But the idea is you take all that into consideration when you present the deliverable, when you are done with your deliverable, making sure if you all that is taken care of. And if let's say you work, like you do some type of home services. So if you have a husband and a wife, making sure you talk to both of them and understand, that one might be concerned with safety, another one with budget, or whatever the case might be. So make sure you understand and you build relationships with all the stakeholders. And I think the other thing here is on the third thing here, aside from, so we talked about communication, we talked about stakeholders, and then the third best practice is about risk management. So you always want to look for things. You want to be proactive, whether it's a resource that's not going to be there. It's a resource it's taking one of your resources longer to finish. It's taking the client longer to give you that information. What contingency plans can I have? What other resources I can rely on? So regular monitoring, I think, is really helpful, and open communication, as I said earlier, will help a lot. So this is something that will just come with practice. I can give you a list of the risks that could happen, but it's just going to be something that you'll develop a feel for, like you have a gut feel for it, and then you can be more proactive. There's not a lot of science. There are, again, common types of things that could go wrong, again, to do with timeline, with the scope, it could do with the resources, but it could be external factors. You're supposed to do something and there is a heat wave and you can't be outside doing certain things. All the stuff will likely, some of these things will happen. And the last part of uh, best practices, the fourth one, is efficiency, and that's in doing doing updates on your processes. So as I said earlier, in this closure, in that delivery and closure stage, having some project evaluation task is really important. This way you can sit with the client and get their feedback, and then sit with your team and collect their feedback about the project, and then look at everything that went well. You want to bolster that process and protect it and keep doing it because it's going well. And then anything that's not going well, okay, what can I do better? I need to do better resource planning. I want to make sure I have less reliance on my vendor. Make sure I do this early in the week so I have, like, whatever the case might be, learn from the mistakes, learn from what went, bad in your last project, to make sure those are addressed for your next project. And make it, I would say, especially if you have a team, even if you have contractors, again, create this transparent, open environment so people will bring up issues. If you're screaming, breathing down their necks and screaming at them, to your team or your contractors, every time there's an issue, guess what? When there's an issue next time around, nobody wants to take ownership. Nobody will even tell you there'll be an issue. So you want to really create an environment of sort of continuous learning. I don't want to say we want to celebrate failure. That's not good, but expect failure will happen. Failures will happen. So how we react with them, how we learn from them, how we build resilience, how we build the ability to stand back up and maybe work overtime and work late at night or over the weekend to make up for some time lost. Those are the things that you want to be aware of. Is encourage this environment of people sharing information, sharing issues, bubbling up issues to you as the business owner, as the manager, as the leader. This way, so you can address them. So that's really what I wanted to focus on here in terms of this area of process updates. We only learn. They say good judgment comes from experience, and then experience comes from bad judgment. So we all make bad judgment at one point. We make it bad judgment at one point or another, but we learn from that and we apply it for the next project. All right. And I believe we have one more section here on tools and resources. And again, if you have any comment, any questions, please enter that in whichever platform you're on, or you can, if it's something very specific to your business, you can go on YouTube on Startup with Ferris, and you can leave me a comment there, or you can go on our website, Startup with Ferris spelled FERS.com, and you can send me an email, or just direct message me on LinkedIn. So in terms of tools and resources, there are gazillion project management and resource management and task list type tools, and many of them are out there, many great ones. You have things like Asana, you have things like Trello, Basecamp, Monday.com, ClickUp, Notion. I've used Basecamp, Notion, ClickUp in the different businesses. I think they're all good for, especially if you're just early on and starting. I would say use a system. A lot of these systems, you can get a free trial, or you can get a trial for like 10, 20, $30 a month. As we have one of those black belt startup principles, we have one of those black belts principles here. We say, learn, implement, then seek advice. So initially, before you go ask around, like, what's the best tool, get one of those free trials, one of maybe a Friday afternoon, go and check them out, watch some of the videos on those vendors' websites, and pick the one that is most fitting for you. But if you're just starting, I think any of these tools, like a ClickUp or like, and I don't have any financial um, uh, agreement with any of these folks. So I'm just sharing this as a public service announcement. They're all great. We use Notion here. In one of the businesses we use ClickUp, and another we've used Basecamp, and another. So again, a lot of good ones out there. And I think um, what's important is understanding what your needs are, and just find a system that will help you meet your current and maybe short-term needs. So let's see, what questions do we have here before we wrap up? Which tool do you think is best? I think the best tool is the tool that will help you meet your requirements. So a pro tip here is that map your project management and your task management needs, and the things that you really need from just talking to other people, or maybe from implementing a few projects. And then again, go out and get a free trial from 2 or 3 of these, and see if you can add just one project into one of these, right? It takes you time. It's going to take you a little bit of time, but that initial time you invest in vetting these tools and finding one that works best for you is very worthwhile. And then you can implement this one of those tools, and then you can roll it, to your team. And then over time, a year, 6 months from now, a year from now, this tool might just be too simple, too simplistic for your needs, and then you can move on to something maybe more enterprise level or more complicated. Cool. So the last thing I want to cover today is about templates and checklists. Again, about efficiency, about building systems. My goal here at Startup with Ferris, and also with our Black Belt Startup program, is to help you start, build, and scale your business to 7 and 8 figures. So without systems, processes, templates, and checklists, you cannot create a scalable venture. So look for things like your project plans. Every time you have a project plan, have a template, and then tweak that template, improve it after the project is done. Look for your status report template, like what do you include in your weekly report to your clients. Look for things like again, the risk assessment checklist. These are things that have gone bad in the last 3 projects. So every time now when you have a new project, run through this list. And then the client communication plan. Have maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4 or 5 slides that you share with the client at every kickoff meeting. Like, here's how we communicate with you. Here's the system we use. Here's some FAQs. I can have those as a template, and then use those and improve them with every project that comes your way. So, and in terms of things, I don't think we'll have time today to cover these, but things will come up doing these projects. Scope creep is a common thing. You thought you want to deliver write 3 pages a week for your client on their blog post, if you're a copywriter, and they're expecting 5 pages or 5 blogs. You're expecting you told them in your contract, I will provide 3 blog posts for you. In your mind, each blog post is 1,000 words. They're thinking 2,000 words. Huge issue there. So things will creep up on you during the project execution. So make sure, again, you define the scope early on. That's really important. We talked about a lot of those tips early. So you can go back to those and making sure, again, the expectations, the communication, the details are documented. And then resource allocation is another gotcha here, where you might have one project will take longer, so you can't assign the same person to another project. You end up being very busy. If you're a solopreneur, you still haven't hired people, you might not have the time to market, to sell, and to implement. So again, you'll become better at estimation your resources as you do more of these projects. So I always tell people, if we have some of our attendees are new to business and you just started a business, I'm actually telling you, don't worry about making money on the very first few projects. I give you permission to lose money on the first few projects, only the first few, because that's all learning. That's all part of what it takes for you to build a scalable business. So initially, you might be off with your estimation, with your resource allocation, with your defining the scope. That is okay, because it's just part of building that business. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for thank you so much for who is it? Okay, we have Shahnawaz. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for joining, Shahnawaz. We appreciate it. We appreciate your comments. So before we wrap up here, I said we have a program, a training and coaching program called Black Belt Startup This is our YouTube channel on the screen. So subscribe, hit like, and share if you like what you're hearing. And then you can go to blackbeltstartup.com. It's our training and coaching program. We have a back to startup school. We have a back to school special. With this back to school promo code, you get $100 off our full membership. And we do have a free course. So you can go to blackbeltstartup.com and get access to the free course. It's a the whole program, the membership is about training, coaching. You'll have access to premium content. There are weekly office hours, and then there's a one-on-one with me on a monthly basis, and we'll give you feedback on your assignments. So it is a month-to-month program, no long-term commitments, and it is like I said, we have a promo code back to school, $100 off, and 30-day money guarantee. Would love to see you there taking the free course, or if you have done that and you'd like to sign up with a full membership, take advantage of the promo code. So thank you so much from wherever you joined us. It looks like we have some folks from India as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, the other folks who sent the questions. And follow us on social media and go to the YouTube channel, Startup with Ferris, and hit like, subscribe, share. We appreciate that. And let me know what other content you're interested in. I'll be more than happy to help you build, scale to 7 and 8 figures. See you next time.